the brain goes, "Oh, I'm in control. Of course I'm in control, right? Because I'm that arrogant, grandiose person. I'm different. I'll be not going to be addicted. No, that's for other people."
I don't know what to say. That's Vicky Midwood. You're about to hear Vicky Midwood. Boy, is it an adventure. Something about liking and subscribing? Enjoy. Would love to know what you think. Vicky, welcome along to the podcast. As always, we have to start at the absolute beginning. And I'm going to try and include everything we've just been talking about before this starts somewhere. But, well, let's start. What is it you are trying to achieve?
I am trying to achieve people understanding how their body and mind connect and to take responsibility for their own health so that they can live longer, healthier, instead of longer, sicker.
Why?
Yeah, why? Let's go. Okay, it's big question.
Yeah,
Straight in.
huge question. Purely and simply because I have seen too many lives being ruined by medication, by separating the body and the physical health from the mental health. And it has robbed me personally of two parents, and watching them deteriorate in the ways that they did, knowing full well that it was totally unnecessary, is the reason why I do that. So yeah, it's a big, powerful personal why, but I know that they are just two people out of billions who have had the same experience with loved ones, and it doesn't need to be that way.
No, it doesn't. I mean, first of all, absolutely sorry to hear that, right? It's never nice any day of the week, is it? But my next question, if that's okay, is, and I think I know the answer to this, but I still need to ask it. What about your personal, what you're trying to achieve personally, which I won't say anything, I'll ask you the question.
Personally, I want to have the best life that I possibly can with the short time I'm on this planet. And I want to do that, enjoying my life whilst helping other people. So, yeah, I'm doing it for financial gain. I'm doing it for benefit in terms of my aim, my purpose, I believe, is to serve others. And I don't believe I had any of my experiences to keep them to myself. I think I had them to share them. And so that's why I'm doing it, because I want people to live a life and love it in a body that they also love, not hate.
I'm really glad we're speaking to you today. I really am, because I think this is really tough. We obviously we spoke before we were on camera today. Been a bit of a challenging week in this household, just for various things in life. And before we hit record, we were out in the car. We like to go for a little bit of a drive after the school run sometimes, go and change the scenery. And we went to go and see the water, because that always makes us a bit calmer. And we were talking exactly what you said there about life of service and how everything we're trying to work out what our purpose is. Are we doing it because we want to be on Billionaire Island? Well, that would be very lovely, but actually everything, a bit like you, everything we want to do is to bring others in on the adventure with us, and we want to kind of help as many people, and we like to be able to be helpful. And that's on an episode that I did a few weeks ago as well. Being helpful is important, because I think that's leaving a lasting impact, but a positive impact that can actually kind of start to force that change for the better rather than the worse. And everything you stand for is just so relevant to what we were talking about just this week. So Vicky, I don't know where to go from there.
Well, I don't know, Vicky. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to say that the important thing is, and I think things are changing so quickly, and everybody blames what happened with COVID as being like a kind of a way of amplifying something that's been going on, if we're honest, for a long time. We're getting less and less and less connected to each other, and I know social media is supposed to be to make us feel more connected, but we're not. And it's about us being able to be in a community, and the only reason we've survived as a species is because we are a community. And if you look at any other communities, they stick together and they help each other out, right? And when they know that they cannot help each other out, they move on, and they kind of have to let those people go. And so this is about what you're saying. It's about not being a savior, but it's about allowing us to be humans and to hopefully keep this race going in a way that we grow and improve and evolve for the better. And at the moment, we're growing and evolving, and it ain't for the better. For the first time ever, we are creating a generation that is probably not going to live as long as their parents. And that is frightening. So helping people to be a part of something that is positive and working together and just being a nice human, right? Because we all feel better if we can be nice to each other. And it's like, yeah, more of that, please.
No, you're so true. Now I feel I need to bring a story. So I try and do, it's only on about month 3 and it's not currently got a lot of people coming, but once a month I do hashtag 5K Friday, right? So 8 a.m. on one Friday morning in the month. Anyone who's into running, come along. We do a 5K run and a chat. Lady came this morning, Joe Miller, who never met. I put a post on Facebook or LinkedIn, can't remember now which one, and she went, oh, I'll come along. And as we're there running, she did say, first of all, she went, I nearly didn't come. We had for 2 people who had never met before, I feel it was a no holds barred conversation. I think everything was covered. And, you know, she did say...
I don't know how they do that, because I'm running like this.
No, we were running like... For those into running, my fast running's like 4-minute 30 kilometres. If I'm doing a race, we were doing 7-minute kilometres, right? That's considerably... Yeah, right. So we're just having a chat and a jog around. I shouldn't say run, really. But one of the things she did say that kind of stuck with me halfway around was she went, you wouldn't get this on a Zoom chat, would you? And we are 100% digital first company. That's what we believe, isn't it? And actually, we do less digital and more in-person stuff than we've ever before, because we made a bad call. If we're being on, not a bad call, it's never bad, is it? You always learn and all that malarkey. Yeah. But now I'm going for runs with people like Joe, who I've never met before. We're going to see her again at an FSB event on Wednesday, and I'm absolutely loving it. And another guy, sorry, I feel I need to share this because I think it's relevant. And 2 Januaries ago, right? So January 2023, I'm in a car park at Romsey Rapids, for those who know it, getting changed for the Romsey 5-mile run. A family walk past me. I make a jokey comment. They make a jokey comment back. Life goes on. I put a picture of me on that run up on LinkedIn. He comments and went, I was the family who walked past you. Brilliant. We now chat regularly, meet regularly for runs. He's one of the 5K Fridayers, and this is unbelievable. But we both now love this in-person part.
What you've just described there is the beauty of this. Both. It's not an either or. It's not just a digital world and it's just an in-person world. It's enmeshing those two. And you'd have had that conversation and possibly not conversed with them again if you hadn't have posted that picture on social media. So this is where you realise that everything is interconnected, everything is intertwined, and we get into massive problems when we try and separate stuff. And that's why I'm so passionate. When somebody says to me, oh, my mental health or my physical health, I'm just like, it's just health, right? Your body has a brain inside it. As far as I know, your brain's not outside, right? We don't carry it around separately. It's housed within this body. So, well, exactly. But the way that people talk about it, it is literally like it's a separate thing. Do you ever watch, sorry, I can't, Rent a Ghost? Does anybody remember Rent a Ghost? Or am I showing my age?
I am of an age where I remember Rent a Ghost.
I'm far too young.
Do you not remember it at all? Oh, you're kidding me. It was brilliant.
Well, for those who don't, it's a weird program about a ghost appearing. But there was one who was a knight. Do you remember? And he had his head under his arm. Right, and I always, that's the picture that I get conjured up in my head when somebody talks to me about mental health being separate from physical. And I'm like, you got it under your arm carrying it around with you. It's like, no, but this is the same thing. We've been conditioned, and it's really to all of our detriment to separate things. It's an either or an or. Yeah, even down to polls on social media. Is it a yes or a no? And it's like, no, it's an and. I don't want to do either or. And this is the issue that so many of my clients have. They are black and white thinkers. And it's like, but that's not how we roll. It's not how we work. No. It's not how we can integrate. So it's, social is great online. but it's also great offline because you get a different energy and a different vibe, and that is what energy is. It's vibration, isn't it? And it's completely different when you're with somebody and in that same space, especially outdoors. It's awesome.
Oh, I love it. I keep trying to explain to Emily why I love running so much.
I feel like I know, Adam.
Right, but I know. I get caught up in it. But fundamentally, part one is just being outside. Yeah. Just being outside. I absolutely love it. Right, so first things is, remind me to cancel that LinkedIn poll where I put yes or no down as the answer. Or don't tag Vicky in it. No, I haven't really. All right, so my other thing is like what I love is this version of Vicky that we see before us now, we're listening to talking. Do I presume the 10-year-old Vicky was very, very different?
Oh,
other than just being 10,
totally different. Yeah. But
so how did you get to where you are today? What's your journey? What's your adventure?
Yeah, I mean, she was very different, but she was blooming arrogant, right? And I always thought she was right for a start. So I'm definitely different. I'm more than happy to say I'm wrong, and I don't know anything. Whereas my 10-year-old knew the world, knew everything, was so full of her own self. On the one hand. But she was very confused as well because she was incredibly insecure and didn't feel safe, and so turned to food and was a thief of penny sweets from being a very, very young age.
That's why Woolworths went bankrupt.
Gosh, if I could tot up how many of the pick and mix over the years I've had. My issues around realizing that my body shape and how I looked was different kicked in around 10 years old, because that's when I transitioned from being just like the same sort of size as everybody else to being taller. So when I left infant school, I was the tallest one. So you see photos that we all get. We get like the last day, get the whole school together. And by the way, there were 42 people in my whole school. Wow. So in our class, I was the tallest. And then I looked and everybody was like, well, you're as tall as the teachers. And I was the ginger-haired one, the freckly one. And when you look at everybody else, they're all kind of mousy hairs, slim, small, petite, right? And I was not any of those things. And so I knew that I was not the same as other people. And I quite liked the fact that I wasn't the same, hence the grandiosity. But I also hated it. I hated my naturally curly hair. I hated the colour of it. I hated the fact that I had freckles. When we did sport, my thighs went bright red when they were cold. So did my face. Nobody else did that. So I was very insecure even at that age with my looks. And that morphed into me then trying to change my shape, my weight, my size, which began in earnest at age 11. So yes, wow. The younger age version of me was very different in many ways.
Sorry to interrupt the adventure, but like I think that's fascinating. So what I'm getting, please tell me if I'm wrong here, I'm getting on this one hand, you quite liked this being different, but because you then felt you didn't actually fit anywhere, they conflicted. Totally. And I think that's something that's probably more prevalent than ever before nowadays, is that like, I like being tall, I like being this, I like that. Oh, what umbrella do I fall under then? You know, because I'm not quite happy being under umbrella Vicky. Yep. I feel like I need other people in this umbrella. So then that's when the confusion starts.
Although kindred spirits, because we're a tall family as well.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, you know, everybody I work with who's been through any kind of eating disorder or disordered eating, that's exactly what they explain, is that they want to be different, but they also want to be the same. And we can't be both. And that's where the dilemma is. And so because we can't be both, we think there's something wrong with us. So I thought there was something wrong with me when all of my friends went on a diet at age 11 and they were sticking to it and they were getting results and I couldn't. Okay, so you definitely don't fit in, then there is something wrong with you. You know, but I wanted to fit in, so I wanted to lose weight. So I found a solution. And I was sticking my fingers down my throat because Yeah, okay, now I could
At 11.
now I could do what they were doing.
Yeah.
And this is where you realize that nobody sets out to to be an addict or to find behaviors that are not healthy.
I'm going to become an addict today.
Oh, do I?
Goal to-do list.
Yeah. But you know what? It worked, and it wasn't easy. But I was like, okay, so literally can have my cake and eat it now, and so I did frequently, and this is where you start to fall into these repetitive habits, and the brain goes, oh, I'm in control. Of course, I'm in control. Right? Because I'm that arrogant, grandiose person. I'm different. I'm not going to be addicted. No, that's for other people. Right? Yeah, right. Until you realize that actually, you know what? Even if you want to, now you really don't think that you can stop, and trying to is really hard. So yeah, it was a journey that happens over time and over a period of time, and you get really good at it. Let's face it. Right, you're really good at podcasting, right? Because you keep repeating it, and that's no different with any addiction. And what I had no clue, obviously at the time, was the damage that I was doing to my heart, to my throat, to my teeth, to my electrolyte balance, to my hormone function. No clue about any of that. I just had one goal, was to be smaller so that I could fit in. Forget the fact that, I didn't change my ginger hair or my freckles.
Freckles. Honestly, our daughter has freckles, and I would love to. It's now a fashion. People have them tattooed on and draw them on, don't they? I'm like, that's a whole different way to put.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Apologies. I've got unfortunately, my head's in quite a serious place for a while. Change. So I've got a sub question that's relevant. So we know whatever we practice, we get good at. Correct. Okay. Yeah. And whether it's a bad, I know we shouldn't be doing bad or good, but for just simplifying it for the moment,
there are definitely
bad
and good things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bad and good things both take effort.
Correct.
So why do we sometimes find it simpler to get good at the bad habits?
Because there's a payoff. And the payoff is from your endorphins, and it's a biochemical concoction that becomes addictive, and your brain then believes that you need that concoction to survive. Right. So that's why, whether it's good or bad, if you keep feeling I'm stupid, I'm thick, I'm terrible, and you keep saying that, every time you think it, you don't know it's happening, but there are chemicals and neurotransmitters that are being released in your body. Think of it like baking a cake, right? There's a certain recipe that comes in with those thoughts and those feelings. And if you keep on repeating and you keep making that recipe through your thoughts and thinkings, your brain is very helpful. It remembers stuff, so you don't have to. Yeah. So it goes, okay, now what it remembers and what you do repeatedly, multiple times a day, multiple days a week, it now thinks you need that to survive. Not just it's no longer nice. I now have to have it to keep functioning. And that's where we get the idea that, you know what, well, it's who I am. It's what I do. But you can equally switch what you're addicted to. Because if you change it to I am good enough and you think nice thoughts and you think positive, well, now there's another chemical concoction and reaction going on here. And so this is what I help people to do, is to help them to get more addicted to the good feelings than they are to the bad ones. But this is why anxiety is addictive. Worry is addictive. Because of what is going on physiologically. And this is why I get so frustrated and /passionate about helping people to see you can't separate the body and the mind, because your thoughts are creating a physical response. You can't change that because it's science. It's happening.
Yeah.
I love people where they have a scientific reason behind things. They're not just doing the woo-woo version of things.
It's like, no, this is... Right, hold on. So, have you got... Oh, you've...
I've had loads of questions.
I know we both got loads of questions.
This is when you've got two presenters. We both have very because we're always fascinated. And this is why
I love these. I love literally hearing
we
this
always say
and
we're going
learning.
to try and keep it to about 30 minutes. We never do 30 minutes. It's always 35, 40, 50, you know, because it just gets so exciting. Anyhow, so this started from at the age of 11. How far down that path did you get before there was any kind of intervention from anyone outside of you?
Oh, that's a great question. Pretty far. It's the answer.
Wow.
Yeah. So as you can tell, I'm a northerner. So we call a spade, and so my dad also calls a spade, and he was not having any daughter of his with some kind of mental health issue, so that's not going to happen. So yeah, so he physically tried to force food down me. So that was an intervention that wasn't welcome. I then had some of my friends behind my back when I was 14 or 15, went to my mum and basically said, she's throwing up at school, she's missing lessons because, you know, she goes into town and she don't come back because she's got her head down the toilet in the public loos. And they kind of knew what was going on. I kind of cut ties with most of my friends by that stage, because when they were going out, I had other things to do. Or if I did go out with them, I wouldn't eat, but I would drink because I could get served and they couldn't when we went into town. So that was my first taste of alcohol, and the two becoming my favourite two addictions, throwing up and getting hammered. So yeah, it was my friends. And of course I fell out with them because how dare they tell on me. But because of that, my mum felt obliged to go to the GP, and I went to a psychotherapist who recommended a brand new place in Leeds where the therapist had just discovered bulimia and how to treat it. And that apparently was what this thing that I was doing was called. I didn't even know it had a name, to be quite honest. And so my dad, because he needs to fix everybody, took me over to Leeds, and it was quite laughable. So to fill you in when I say that, again, that sounds really arrogant, but it's not, because my mum has or had bipolar, which back then was called manic depression. And I had been in a number of therapy situations with her. And she was sectioned when I was 12 in a horrific way, literally straitjacketed and ambulance in front of us, which is pretty horrible, but meant that I was frustrated already by the whole medical system by this point, and seeing how they spoke to my mum like she was an idiot and she didn't know what was going on. So me being me, as you do at 13, 14, I'm coming with you. And so I knew how therapists spoke. And I kind of knew also what the expectations were. So when I went to see this person and he was like, tell me about your childhood, I was like, oh, get it. Really? Really? Is this where we're starting? So, yeah. And, you know, basically I played along. Played the game, said what they wanted me to say. They wanted to put me on antidepressants, of course. To which I took the prescription and just threw it away. And that kind of was the first intervention, and it was pretty much a waste of time. But, you know, I was seen to be doing what I was supposed to do, so that's what counted. And in the meantime, I was just kind of getting more and more addicted, because it's quite stressful. And what people don't realise is the actual, without being too graphic and giving people ideas, but throwing up in and of itself is addictive. So what I realized later on, after I came out of rehab, and I didn't know until I understood addiction more, was that I thought it was the food and wanting to eat that was the big addiction. But actually, no, the big addiction was the throwing up, because it's a release and it's a relief. And it's a little bit like cutting in self-harm. It's that kind of... And so when I was going through all of, you know, being to-ing and fro-ing to this guide, is it working? And of course, you've got to pretend that it is working. So now I'm not throwing up in the house. I'm now finding fields and walking next door's dog. It became, I had to be more secretive. I was a better liar. So yeah, I played the game. But yes, intervention stepped in at around about 14, 15.
Wow.
So fast forward that then to Vicky, to you and your business. Well, I'll chat for hours. At what point did you think actually, obviously you overcoming that, or we never overcome it, but you managing that as a situation, did you think that could be how, bringing you back to your purpose and your business, that you would turn this into a business? What was that kind of switch for you?
I can remember exactly. So it's a great question. When I was in my second rehab in 2005, so to fill in the blanks, I became more addicted to alcohol, and the food issues in my head were solved, right? Because alcohol had pretty much taken over, and you know what, I was eating. If I was throwing up, I blamed it on having drunk too much, so that was okay. It was legit, you know. And to be fair,
it was legit.
To be fair, I wasn't doing what I had done previously, so that behaviour absolutely had changed, and there was a pivotal point when that changed, but that's a different story. But it was definitely, I went into rehab in London, and basically the guy who owned it, ironically, was from the north. And he said, "Hey, lass, if you go back to where you came from, you'll probably relapse, and physically your body can't handle it." Because it was touch and go when I went to rehab as to whether I was actually going to be okay. For the first 48 hours, I was monitored, and they weren't sure. So he said, "We've got a sister place in South Africa. My suggestion is you go there for 2 months, back into a primary care, and then into a secondary care, which we didn't have in the UK. We do now, but we didn't back then." And so he suggested that I went, and a voice that wasn't mine was sat in this room with him, went, "Yeah, I'll go." Because my voice would have gone, "I can't possibly go. I've got a daughter. I've got to go home." But something said, "Go." And that's the best thing I ever did, because the psychotherapist there helped me to truly understand addiction and the whole physiological connection. And I was just like, why the fudge didn't all the people who were trying to help me, and other people that I know with anorexia and bulimia and other alcoholic, why are they not saying this? Why do we not know this? Why doesn't everybody know this? So that was the pivotal moment when I was like, right, when I get back, I was in South Africa knowing, do I even want to be in the fitness industry still? Because I was a fitness instructor by that point. I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And it was, yeah, I do. I need to learn how to help people so that I can tell them the truth, and so they don't have to be stuck for as long as I was. So yeah, that was pivotal. So South Africa 2005.
South Africa, amazing.
Not the exact date or time, but you know what?
Come on, why not?
Yeah. 5th of July, you know. I need to jump back into the Can I ask you a question about the addictions, please, if that's all right? Not specifically your addiction and being addicted, but about being addicted. Do you solve that addiction or replace it? And the reason I ask is I do a lot of the kind of I've talked about running in this podcast.
No, actually, did everyone know Alan likes to run?
But what you sometimes see, and I like to read books and watch videos on it and everything else, is people like, oh, I went from 20 years in a ditch as a drug addict to a top triathlete, Iron person, you know, can't say Iron Man anymore, you know, Iron person. And is it a case of replacing it, or, you know, and then my sub question is, what if you don't, and I believe this from what I understand, have a necessarily addictive behaviour? You know, are there people who have less addictive behaviours? So yeah, I just have a bit of a question around addiction as a whole, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, and it's a question that everybody wants to know, because is there such a thing as an addictive personality? The answer is probably, right? I'm not going to say definitely, because when we look at personality types, can you see certain personality types? Are there such things as narcissistic personality types? Yes. But were people born like that, or was it created? So, chicken and egg, to be honest, right? There's elements of both, you can't say. So are some people more likely to be addicted to certain things? Yes. There is a genetic component. There is an upbringing component. There are so many factors involved, but yes is the answer. Look at people who smoke. Do you know anybody who is a social smoker?
Don't anymore.
Right, but if you did know people who were social smokers, they could go out, you're at the pub, whatever, they only smoke then, right? As opposed to their friend who smokes any time of the day, any day of the week, right? So why does one feel the need to do it all the time, and the other one is fine just doing it now and again? And that's pretty much the same. Now, does that person who smokes now and again do something else that could be classed as being addictive that the other person doesn't do? Quite possibly, yes. But here's what we've got to understand. We like to feel good. We like to feel safe. And if we're doing something that makes us feel good and safe and secure, our brain remembers it and it says, do it again. Now, if we've come from a background where feeling secure and safe was not something that we had very much of, is it likely that those people are going to be addictive personalities? Quite likely, yes. The first part that you said, swapping being a drinker for a triathlete, remember what I said about there's a chemical concoction that gets released. So there's always going to be endorphins that get released no matter what you do. And if it's an addiction to something that is not harmful, is it a bad thing? Well, in my book, no. Okay? If it's an addiction to something that is harmful, not just to you, but your family, your business, your livelihood and your relationships, then I would class it as a bad addiction. So are there good addictions and bad addictions? In my book, I believe so, right? Then the other thing that crops up a lot is everybody addicted to something? Quite likely, yes, right? But because it feels good and it's not causing us any harm, we don't really think about it. The majority of people who you come across, I can guarantee, are addicted to their phones. If you took it away from them for a week, you can tell by the reaction, right? Some people would go, oh, thank God, please do take it away. Other people will be, oh, we can't do that. I can't live without my phone. And so this is where you realize we can potentially be addicted to anything. It's just, is it helpful or is it harmful? That's where I would go.
So the harmful bit, and we unfortunately have to think about very slowly wrapping this up.
But I've got more to ask.
I've got more to ask. The harmful bit's the bit that's fascinating me, actually, about the addiction part. So, okay, I think we all understand, but if you're addicted to something that is bad, let's just say alcohol, drugs and everything else, the knock on to your family, loved ones,
right, I'm just going to stop
people.
You there, and I'll tell you why. Because alcohol is not necessarily bad for everybody, and drugs are not necessarily bad for everybody. So this is where we've got to be careful, because we stereotype addictions and we stereotype the things that people are addicted to. If some people are quite happy and need to use, for example, marijuana because it's an excellent painkiller, right? Is that bad? Absolutely not. So this is where we've got to be so careful with how we look at these things. Sorry I interrupted, but I think it's important.
No, you're fine. But I'm thinking you might actually be answering my question, which is why, so carry on.
Yeah, and I think this is what we've got to do. So is alcohol inherently bad, full stop? Absolutely yes. Right? We're idiots if we drink. And I'm sorry about that.
Yes.
If you didn't want to hear it.
No, you are right.
It's poison. Simple as. Right? It does not. We used it because it anesthetizes people. It knocks you out. It affects your gut function. It affects your brain function. There is nothing good apart from its anesthetic qualities. And if you want to sterilize something, otherwise, alcohol has no reason to be in our body at all. We do not need it. When somebody says to me, "Oh, what's the safe limit?" No, there is not. What's the safe limit for arsenic? Is my answer. Right? It's a poison, simple as. And people don't want to hear it because it's been marketed to you in a way that makes you believe it is joyful and you need it to relax and have fun and you're boring if you don't do it. And all of that is based upon bunkum and marketing so that lots of people can make lots of money.
No.
But then on the flip side, you've got. We were in a news agent the other day. And we were. They opened the back with all the cigarettes because we don't see anyone smoke. You don't never see it anymore.
Not around where we live, anyway.
Also, £20 a packet of cigarettes. My goodness,
I didn't know. Sorry, when did cigarettes become £20?
I mean, how do people actually afford to have an addiction? That's a different question. But you look at all of the warnings on every single pack and all the pictures of like mutated lungs and all of that, and people still want to do it. So
have you heard that? I believe so. I don't listen to the news, but I unfortunately do catch a bit periodically on the radio. Yeah. But I believe the government are about to ban smoking for anyone born after something. So, like, if you were born after 2009, I can't remember what figure they used, you are never allowed to buy cigarettes.
Anyone before that,
carry on. Carry on.
But here's the thing, though. What is happening? And this is a brilliant example because what has jumped on the bandwagon of us finally twigging that cigarettes are not a good thing? What stepped in and people go, oh, it's fine. Vaping. No, it's not fine.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
right?
Ridiculous.
So
Yes.
can you see that there is a market? And this is what I help people to see. You are being lied to. You are being hoodwinked. You are being sold to, right? Marketing is a psychology. And the big boys who are in cigarettes went into food. Funny that. They use the same psychology and the same marketing. So we now have people who genuinely believe that vaping is okay and smoking is bad. Now, you're still inhaling something into your lungs that should not be in there.
absolutely.
It's not rocket science. It's just flipping obvious. But because the narrative is, oh, this is okay. Same thing when we've got low-fat foods and now it's vegan, so it's healthy. No, it isn't. It's still crap, basically. So this is where we've got to recognize you have to be educated. You do have to listen to the people who are not trying to sell you something, who are just going to tell you the facts, and don't give a monkeys if you're offended or if you don't like it. Because if you don't like what I'm saying to you, tough, right? Deal with it. Because, and this is how I speak to my clients, and they either know they're going to work with me or not. Because if you want to feel good, you've got to understand how your body works to some degree. You've got to understand what affects it and what doesn't. And we are all potentially going to be addicted to certain things. A lot of the time, what we think is helpful, and this is where the dilemma lies. If somebody is addicted to alcohol, we genuinely think it's helping us to feel better. When you're in the addiction, you can't see it. So oftentimes it's not the addict themselves who's going to go, hey, yeah, I have a problem. It is the people around them who are being affected, right? And so this is where sometimes you have to have interventions, because the genuine belief was, well, you know what, I'm throwing up and it's helping me to lose weight, so it's a good thing, right? Come down the line 20, 30 years later, when all my teeth are not my own because they have rotted, and I've had a heart attack because I upset my electrolyte balance and caused so much damage to my organs, right? But you tried telling me that when I was in it. It wasn't relevant to me at the time. Just like those warnings on cigarette packets, right? That's not going to happen to me. I know an auntie who smoked till she was 92 and was perfectly fine, right? There's always going to be a reason why it's not applicable to me, because when you're addicted, you're invincible. You're special and you're different and you're invincible. And so what you think is helping you, which is your addiction, does actually feel like it is in the moment, instant gratification. It's just afterwards that it's not. And what do we do with that feeling when we realize it's not? Well, let's just do it again then.
Yeah, do it again.
Wow. Vicky, before we get to Alan's final question, I have one other question, and then we'll get to your final question, if that's okay, Alan.
Go for it, Emily.
And we talked about this pre-recording, actually. So you mentioned pre-recording about your heart attack and how you posted that on LinkedIn, and you had a response from someone saying that's not very professional for you and for your clients. I'd like to unpick that a little bit, because I think actually, and I think we both agreed on that, that is exactly why you posted that post, right?
Yeah, it is.
Why do you think that was the right thing to do? Because I know why it was the right thing to do, but I'd love to hear why you.
Yeah, it was the right thing to do, because we have this myth that if you are in the world of fitness, and if you're healthy, and sorry, Alan, but if you're doing things like running and going to the gym every day and all that kind of stuff, well, you're kind of immune to heart attacks. But the reason I posted it was my health and my fitness was the reason why waiting for 90 minutes for the ambulance kept me alive, and there wasn't a strike going on then either. Right? Because if I hadn't have been fit, potentially I would have had a lot of damage that would have been irreparable. But it was stress that was the main factor, and it was my past behavior that contributed to it massively. And that's what I wanted to put across, is that my anorexia, because I ended up being a very, very low weight at one point. And so when your body is that low, it affects your heart function massively. So I have bradycardia anyway, posh word for saying a naturally very low heart rate, which we associate a low heart rate with being fit. right? But my heart rate was low because of the damage that I did with my eating disorder. Add on the fitness now, and so it is still low. But thankfully, because of that, it kept me alive. But it was stress. It was literally this, with one event on top of the other, that came together at the same time that tipped me over the edge. And that's why I posted it, because it was nothing to do with how fit I was or how healthy I was. It was to do with the stress load became too much. And so my body just went, stop! You've got to look at what you're doing and do things differently. And that is exactly what I did. So that's why I posted it.
Perfect answer.
Actually, I agree on what you were just saying about fitness and heart attacks and everything else, because I've been in hospital a couple of times with heart-related stuff, not heart attack, and both times in conversation, the fact that I'm fit and well in inverted commas has always kind of been a benefit.
I will never forget the first time we were in hospital with the ambulance, and we got Alan to A&E, and he's laying and his heart rate was going up.
It was like 220.
220 down. And it was spiking lots, and there were 5 doctors at the end of this bed, and they were arguing, Mr. Braithwaite, are you okay?
I'm like, yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
I feel a bit, and it was simply because of his health.
Yeah.
And but he was very aware for when things were going wrong to ring the ambulance, and that's a very good skill to have. I mean, I'd like it to not happen full stop, but it did. But it was like these doctors were just looking completely bewildered. Like anyone else would be on the floor, literally in a pile, in absolute agony,
in their opinion,
or unconscious. Yeah. But it was because you were so fit and healthy.
You were going to say so fit and stopped yourself, didn't you?
You are lovely. Anyway, Alan, last
She stopped herself, Vicky. You know that.
He's lovely.
Absolutely, he is. And it's good. And here's what you've got to remember as well from your experience. It's happened to you. And it technically can happen to anybody. And we don't know when. You know, mine happened at like 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I thought I was coming down with a virus, and I passed out. I just thought, well, I fainted. You know, I thought I'm getting a virus, don't feel very well. Right, so this is where we've got to recognise that none of us are invincible and none of us are immune to stuff, even though we think we are. But we got to learn to recognise what you said. There's key is that awareness. But you have to be connected to your body to be able to be aware, to be able to tune in. And we're not taught that. In fact, we're taught quite the opposite a lot of the time by parents. Oh, I've got a pain in my tummy. Oh, ignore it. It'll go away soon. Oh, no, your tummy's telling you something. I've got a headache.
That could be us.
Oh, take a pill. No, you've got a headache for a reason. Let's find out what your body is trying to tell you. And so one of the first things that I work on with anybody, it doesn't matter what we're doing, whether it's a personal training client and it comes to fitness, or whether it's with disordered eating or alcohol or anxiety or any addiction, we have to be aware. We have to be aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling and what is our body telling us. And every part of our body is connected to emotions. And I have a fantastic tool that excites me even when I think about it, that connects what is going on in your life with every single part of your body. And I absolutely love it because it's pretty much spot on. And this is where, you know, your body talks to you, but we need to learn body language, proper body language, to decipher what it's saying. But it does come down to awareness, and that makes oodles of difference.
Yes, it does. Right. We unfortunately, we have to end. I believe this could very, very swiftly be becoming our longest episode. No,
it's not.
Is it not?
We had ABC on the podcast.
Oh, we did have ABC on, didn't we? That was definitely long. Like, I had to go through inner turmoil then of going, but I want to ask this. And I'm like, no.
We'll have to do Vicky part 2.
We've got a few.
Yeah.
We have a few for part 2 we might bring back, actually. Right, okay, let's just do the final question. Yours is one of those lives where I feel this one's going to be, you know, what would you go back to your younger self and say if you had the opportunity to?
It's going to be okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect ending. Right. In that case, let's just end it, yeah? Done, dusted.
Oh my God, don't be so brash.
No, I'm like, I can't say anything. You can't say anything after Vicky said it's going to be okay.
Do you know, you are one of
you're
one of life's heroes. You really are, because what you are doing in your professional life is so important, really important. We have lots of us who strive to do. We all want to be in Barbados with our pina coladas. I talk about that all the time. But what you are doing has so much impact and purpose, and it is really admirable, Vicky. And you have had such a colourful life before this point right now, and you admit that, and you're using it for good, not evil. Well done. Thank you so much for being here today. You're ending it, not me. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and joining us on Digital Circus Live, and thank you all for watching.
See you next time. Bye. You're incredible, Vicky.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. I so wanted to chip in there, but I realised time when you said pina coladas in Barbados, I'm like, yeah, I've done that. First husband.
You should have done.
I don't even
I
like
might save
pina
that as a
coladas
short
much.
on. I'm still recording. I might put that on at the end, actually.
Do it.
I will. I'm going to keep that on at the end, actually. Right, so this is like the second finish. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.